Hello and welcome to episode 170 of Daryl Show Your Work. All right, so in this episode, I'm going to be using a tool called AdFind in order to conduct some discovery and enumeration on a Windows-based network and a Windows-based network machine. But before I get started on that, again, I want to give the reminder, to check out INE. They have a great selection red teaming and blue teaming certifications where you'll be able to either get some red teaming or pen testing essentials or build upon established skills that you already have into specialty pen testing skills such as mobile pen testing and web pen testing. Also, blue teaming skills such as system administration. Their ESOC simulation tool where you'll be able to use tools such as Splunk and Wazoo to learn different types of sim tools and how to conduct some log analysis. Anyways, please visit get.ine.com/Daryl and anything that you purchase at checkout, if you enter in promo code INF100 dash Brooks Tech, you will get 10% off your purchase except for live virtual trainers. All right, so make sure you check that out. And with no further ado, AD Find. All right, so what it is, it's actually a versatile command line tool designed for querying and managing Active Directory environments. So it is specifically designed for Windows, since we're talking about Active Directory. All right, so the first thing I want to do as far as showing how this works, I want to actually create a temp folder. All right, so in order to do so, I'm going to jump into PowerShell here. All right. So within PowerShell, I'm going to make a directory with the mkdir command. And then we want to call this, let's see, we want this in the C drive. All right. And then let's see, let's put this under the Windows folder. And of course, we're going to name it temp. All right. And then I'm going to create a sub, all right, directory. We're going to call this temp-adf, short for ADF Finder. Okay, so what this is, what I'm doing here is I'm creating a folder in the Windows temp folder that I'm creating as well, where the data such as the full names, computer names, email addresses, all that's going to be stored in this temporary folder here. All right, so let's hit enter. All right, looks like that was created. All right, so now it's actually time to conduct some account enumeration. All right, so this is going to be an actual very lengthy command. So give me a quick second here. I'm going to post that command up here because, again, I don't want to keep us here all day fumbling my syntax. So I'm going to paste it. Give me a second here to find where I have that command. All right, so let's paste that in here. All right, so again, what this is going to do, so this is going to find all the person objects or users and output the results to a text file in the folder. And I'm naming that folder I'm naming that text file ad_users.txt. All right, so let's get that running. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, so if we look here, let's look at one of the records. We have 11 records that were returned. All right. So what these type of records are going to include for specifically for the user accounts is going to have the full name, the username, which group the user belongs to, which domain the user belongs to, the email address, the number of existing users. All right, and it's going to give us this type of information by querying this. All right. So again, this is how we use AD find AdFind to enumerate the users. Now, if we wanted to enumerate the actual system properties, all right, give me a second here. All right, I will use the following command. All right, so this is again, so what this is going to do is going to discover and identify all the computer objects or devices that are on that are within the network that I'm in. All right, so let's run that. Okay, and so looking at this returned 8, so apparently there's 8 different computers on this network. All right, so this is going to return information such as the computer name, the account the user account control, the number of existing computers, and so on and so on. All right, so this is what it looks like when AdFind enumerates the computers or the devices on the network that we're running this on. All right, so what if we wanted to broaden our view, and what if we wanted to then turn and then enumerate the domain? All right, so to do that, give me a quick second here. All right, so let's paste that here. All right, so what this is going to do is going to gather the essential information about the domain environment that I'm currently in. All right, so let's see what it returns. All right, so of course it came back with apparently this network only has one domain. All right, so it comes back with the domain name. All right, which in this case it appears to be Big Corp. All right, and then the server name, and then also the Microsoft Server version. All right, so again, this is the type of information we can see that right here. It's running a Windows Server 2019, which we could tell, by the background and by my overall environment here. But this kind of confirms the domain that excuse me the Microsoft Server version that's being ran. All right, so some other things, and then also it'd be remiss of me to not mention that this is how vital this information is, because it helps as far as understanding the configuration and the infrastructure of the domain, which can be instrumental to various operations. All right, so then if I wanted to move on to lastly, system network configuration. All right, if I wanted to just understand what the overall configuration of the system, the network is. All right, I will use the following command here. All right, give me a second with this. All right, let's paste that there. All right, so again, this is going to return, this is going to find and return a list of subnets and output the results to a text file for me. And this text file is going to be ad underscore subnets.txt. It's always good, just to output whatever we run with enumeration tools such as this or Nmap or whatever. We save those findings to be able to then be able to analyze later, or if we need to feed them into another tool, such as like in the case of Nmap and Metasploit, then for that tool to then automate, take our findings and automate it when it comes to selecting any sort of module, was it exploitation module, auxiliary module, et cetera, et cetera. It'll just help to make things go a bit faster. All right, so anyway, let's run this. Oops, accidentally pasted it back in there. Let's, all right, that should be, okay, let's run that. All right, so again, we have one entry here, so it's going to return, the information is going to return to us is the subnet name, the subnet, excuse me, address range, and the associated site. All right, so in this case, our subnet is 192.168.1.0/26. So commands like these, they can reveal details about a network structure, including the IP ranges, subnet masks, and potentially other related configurations. This information can be crucial for planning future attacks, such as launching network-based exploits. So looking at this from a red teaming point of view and attacker's point of view, this is how a Windows-based machine can be enumerated, or how a tool such as AdFind can be used to enumerate a Windows-based machine. All right, so see a few other things that we could enumerate here. Let's say I wanted to enumerate permission groups, specifically domain groups. All right, so let me just find that here on my end. All right, so paste that in there. All right, so again, this is going to list the groups, all the groups that are within the single domain here that's in this network. Oops, and I don't know why it keeps pasting that, keeps doing that. Hold on, let me fix that. Okay, all right, let's try that again. There we go. All right, so and I don't want to try to go line by line and read all this for you. So that's why I'm summarizing this for you as far as the type of information that we're looking at. But um, these are the different user groups that this is the information for the different user groups that are within the domain. All right, so that's what it's returning here. And we have, let me see, scrolling down a bit more. We have 51 objects returned. All right, so but we can see that one of the user groups here is sales, and another one is HR, and another one is developers, and so on for like 47 or 46 other groups. All right. So one last thing that I can do here, if I want to take all of this, so for all of these different commands that I've used, I've been saving them into documentation. So let's say that I wanted to take everything that I have in this subdirectory that I created in the very beginning, and I wanted to contain it all in one place, and wanted to like send it off to myself. And if I'm an attacker, I wanted to exfiltrate all that information back to my local machine or whatever. The way I can do that is by compressing it. So give me a moment here. All right. So again, what the following command is going to do here. So it's going to compress the entire AD find folder into a single zip file. And I'm naming that zip file AD_info.zip. All right. And again, if I'm an attacker and I'm on someone's local network, and I've just used AD find to enumerate the network properties and system properties of this Windows-based host, then I can compress it and just send it to my exfiltrate all the information to myself, to analyze and determine what actions that I may want to take next, or what vulnerabilities or things do I see that I can exploit here. All right, so let me make sure I don't want to paste this again. Just click on that. All right, so zip that up, and it looks like, let's see, so I'm sure where is, oh well, it's okay. So yeah, no, it's not going to save in my local directory, but it's saved. So basically, it's saved. What's happened is that the zip file has been saved into the temp dash adf folder within the temp directory. All right. So this command, it takes all the files that was in that temp.ad f directory and compress them into a single zip file. And again, I named that ad_info.zip. All right, so those are some basic ways that we can use AdFind to enumerate Windows-based hosts and the network and domain that it sits on. Please like, share, subscribe. Again, just a reminder. Please check out INE for their great training and certification offerings. Again, to get there, go to get.ine.there. Excuse me, get.ine.com/Daryl. Use product code INF 100 dash Brooks Tech to get 10% off any of their service offerings, with the exception of live virtual trainings. Until next time, take care of yourself. God bless and show your work.